Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to the second iteration of the 2.4 dev server, and this will be a vehicle overview. I didn't make it to the first iteration as that one came kind of out of the blue, and I wasn't prepared to do any sort of video on that. So the second iteration was actually announced a day early, and that is a massive big thumbs up from me because I actually could prepare in terms of scheduling my time, and also, announcing this to my community. And so there are a bit more people now on the dev server and have awaited it, which hopefully gets rid of a lot of the bugs and issues and glitches that are there quite obviously on the dev server. Again, everything is subject to change, and this is not looking at any sort of the maps, and I will just go over the vehicles, and some of them rather briefly as they are well known. Others have some specialities, and especially the British part could really make its own video, but I'll include it here. Also, one of you can earn herself or himself a pinned comment with the timestamps of the various different nations, and if you really feel like it, also the various different vehicles in question. Without further ado, let's go right into it. We begin with the Americans, and I obviously start with all the nations from the left to the right. We begin with the Americans with the F8U2 battle rating 10.0, and this jet fighter, the Crusader 2, has also a very interesting weapon loadout, because so much for bugs, you can't select it yet, but AIM-9Ds basically, or AIM-9Bs, and also those rockets where there are no further information. So that is the first thing. The M3A3 Bradley looks Bradley-ish and has obviously then some tow ATGMs. At 9.0, it is equipped still with a 25mm that, as a speciality next to thermal imaging, fires those APFSDS rounds. Now, while they are not quite there where the Swedish 40mm bad boy gang is, it's still a considerable upgrade to this, as it is pure APFSDS, and obviously it's APFSDS versus APDS, so significantly more pan versus angled armor. And that is definitely something that you can look into it. So the Tau 2s have 800mm of penetration, and the Tau 2Bs are with 430mm. I'm not quite sure, are they top-down ATGMs? Well, we'll have to see. Then we go to Germany, and Germany. We get the Leopard 2 PL as a Polish squadron reward vehicle, or you just simply buy it, which makes it technically something where you can buy yourself literally into top tier, into top battle rating of 10.7. And well, first of all, the armor seems to be really cool on the turret. If he let it be shot by its own DM23 from the L44, lower glacis is paper, upper glacis is also not really that strong. The same weakness here around the gun area, although it is in some parts a bit tricky, but the turret here itself, well, it's really strong. So there is that. No further details about this one. It will probably cost around 1 million civil lines. Then the SK105A2. Battle rating 9.0. It is a Argentinian light tank that has obviously some French oscillating turrets. And well, here we have stock HEAT-FS and upgraded tier 3 APFSDS round. Not bad. Then we come to the ME262A1A Yabo. Yabo stands for Yab bomber, so fighting bomber, basically. 7.0. It has still 4 30mm MK108s, and then has the same bomb load option as the Sturmvogel. the Me-262 at 6.7 that only has two 30mm, and you have also then the choice of the Werfergranaten 21 and up to 48 R4M rockets. And that is such evil firepower apparently that Gaijin has pre-printed the F for the enemies. Now, ships. I know, bit of a dead game mode, but the 3D model is delicious. No, it's absolutely delicious. I love it. And the SMS Kaiser is definitely something that I want to try out. Now, there is one caveat. It already comes with almost 21,000 silver lines. Remember that the Hugo was not that expensive if I remember correctly, and also the Fonderton is still at 8,000 on the dev server. Strong secondaries, just such a good looking ship, and also 10 12-inch guns or 305mm with still a reload of 20 seconds. Yes, please. But when I streamed the preparation of the loadouts or the lineups, we joked a bit around and we came across this one. So if you have here the armor piercing versus its own shells, it's really strong. And yeah, where is it? Yeah, there it's over 3 meters. There was actually a point where it's 4 meters of actual armor thickness, and that is just absolutely absurd. This ship is extremely tanky. It is literally a grey box shooting, and even dead flat on, it's nearly 2 meters. The coal bunkers are insanely effective, and we really have to see how this goes. But more on this in just a moment. So moving on, we go actually to the Soviets, and we stay with ships, and this is quite the opposite. This is the Project 50 Rosamancha, something like that. This is a premium of rank 5, battle rating 4.0, where Gaijin charges you, if I remember correctly, 8,500 golden eagles for a ship that is absolutely not worth it. And if I remember correctly, it also has a destroyer spawn. So this fighting Cowells, Fletchers, Z-20s, Z-25s, hell, even 5.0 light cruisers if you're really unlucky. And that for that absurdly high price, do not buy it. It's absolutely money squeezing. It's horrible. And the Civil Line and RRP earning modifiers aren't even good. They are trash, to be honest. Absolutely not worth it. So bad Gaijin. Sadly, I predicted it correctly that the tech tree split was only for Gaijin to sell more overpriced premiums. T-28 in 1938 with a 76mm short-barreled gun that has horrible penetration, but therefore it is bat rating 1.3. So it's like the cone of doom in the French tech tree, to which we'll come in just a moment as well. And the BT-7M is indeed pretty good with over 30 horsepower per ton ratio in RB, that is. And yeah, the 45mm gun is still pretty reliable. Then we come to the Su-9, and that is a reverse engineered Me-262, where also the 30mm were exchanged for a single 37mm and two 23mm. I think it has a bit more ammo for them, if I'm not mistaken. And also you can take some bombs, and there we have the selection: a single 500 kilogram bomb or two 250 kilogram, just like the new Me-262 and or the Sturmvogel. The Su-11 is then, I think, a little bit of an improved version, but same armament and same bomb load options. Civil Line and RP modifiers are far from the best, to be honest, and I have no idea how much it costs, but For me, the selling point isn't that obvious. The Su-17 M2, on the other hand, is absolutely one of the very most interesting planes. First of all, it sits. No, wrong. It sits in the tech tree under the Su-7BKL. And let's have a look at its armament next to the twin or the two 30mm NR30s. You also have a variety of bomb, rocket, and missile loadouts, and that is going into the direction of the Phantom. However, the big selling point next to 6 S-24 rockets is obviously this combination of 4 R-30s and this laser-guided KH-29L with 10-kilometer range. So this is a heavy warhead that is laser guided. I tried it out a little bit, and versus a single target, this is quite serious. But you have to stay on target with your plane manually. You also can use your two KH-25s that have 7 kilometers range and are less evil with their warhead, and also then those the KH-23Ms with again have 10 kilometers range but a lesser warhead. So all your heart's desires. Then we come to Great Britain and we begin with the Attacker FB2, a new premium that is again nothing too special, and there are the rockets, there are the 2 bombs, and that's all that I can talk about this plane. This ship, on the other hand, is again an absolute failure for the sheer amount of money and RP that it costs. It's again one of those things that is absolutely hilariously unfavorable. No, I can't see where this is going. I mean, even if you look at the torpedoes, they are a joke. They might be anti-submarine torpedoes and they have a decent range, but the speed is like to be a bit over exaggerating walking pace, and the warhead is a joke. And it's actually the depth charges that have more TNT, although they are also not among the best. And the 114mm guns that are also prominent, and the turret looks very much taken from the battle class, absolutely not worth it. And the only backup is a twin 40mm, so no. The ZT-3A2 is a wheeled armored car, and it has 3 ATGM launchers, and you have overall 12 missiles. They have the following capabilities, namely that the stock ATGM has 650mm of penetration, and the ZT-3A2 is a tandem warhead with up to 800mm of penetration and 4 kilometers range, with what looks like a reasonable speed. And that's about it. So very fragile, and for 8.7 in a city fight, not my favorite. But it wouldn't be Britain if we wouldn't get things like that. What is that, Britain? Oh, what do I hear? This is not an SPA that fires at the enemy with its 35mm guns. Oh no, look at this. Look at this. You can't hit the planes with the guns? Yeah, load the catapult, man. And fire the damn thing. Honestly, that was the big joke of the day on my Discord. Load the catapult and then fire it. Loading, firing. Honestly, to be honest, I could do this all day long. So it's okay, Britain, we love you. Then we come to the new, believe it or not, South African tech tree line. So it is this entire new line, and I'll go through it bit by bit. And the first thing is that thing, and to be honest, it looks really top heavy, and it's a British cruiser tank turret, I think, modified, just welded on top of a German armored car chassis. Now, two things. First of all, I love how it looks, and it immediately reminded me of the drawings of Angelo's World, which I also really like. I did a test drive with it, and you know, it looks too narrow and too top heavy to not just flip around. But in the test drive, I went up to max speed, down a hill, and on a negative inclination, basically tried to roll it over with just doing the worst possible maneuver. And it stayed on the road. And also it went back uphill with a surprisingly good speed. So it feels like, just from that one test drive in realistic battles, that Gaijin reworked the traction and also the driving model overall and improved it. There has to be further testing done, but it gives me hope that this is something that they work on, and I hope that they will nail it. So yeah, for 2.7, a 40mm, yeah, it's okay. We even have an APHE round, smoke shells, all that you want. And obviously it scouts, and it's mobile, and it's wheeled, and it's a light tank. Britain needs this stuff. It really does. Then the SARC Mark 6 with the 6-pounder is simply also similar hilariously at 3.3, but we have a bit more serious firepower here. We go up to 122mm, and again we can scout all day long. Now obviously the armor is not really something worth writing home about. Then we come to the Rattle 90 at 6.7. I hope I pronounced this right. And yeah, it's again this 3-axis 6-wheeled armored car. The armor again is there to prevent the crew from falling out. And then we have the 90mm stock HEATFS and also a smoke shell with a rather useless HE round. The Elan 90 Mark 7 or Eland 90, I don't know. That looks a bit like a French car that we already have in the French tech tree. Was it 6.7 if I'm not mistaken? I don't know. Armor is also, well, thin, what do you expect from a light tank. And the ammunition is almost identical, but again, mobile, and you can scout. The Rattle 20 is then a bit more interesting. Sadly, the 20mm is not stabilized, and also the ATGM, you have to completely come to a standstill to fire it, and the Milan has 530mm of penetration. The 20mm has 53mm of penetration itself. But still, it's cool. The Oliphant Mark 1 begins the beginning of the actual main battle tank line, and it is a Centurion, rather more approaching the capabilities of a shot Carl Dalet, although missing the machine guns. We have a 105mm GT3, and we have a stock HEATFS. We also have tier 1 hash and smoke, and we have the M111 APFSDS round, basically the same that you get on the shot Carl Dalet, the XM1, and so forth. Very widely used APFSDS rounds. Then we come to the Roykart MTTD. By the way, before I forget it, the actual Roykart that we previously saw here got moved to the tech tree right here, which might give you the opportunity to progress a bit faster in that aspect, hopefully. Although with how Gaijin's system works, I doubt it. Now, that turret looks different. We are looking at battle rating 9.0, and the armor again is rather thin, and the gun together with the mobility is promising, as again stock HeatFS, tier 2 HESH, thermal imaging, and the DM23, which is again the same shell as previously. And then we come to the Oliphant Mark II. Now the armor looks interesting. It is 6 inches of cast homogeneous armor straight on the front, and in theory here's some overlapping armor and a lot of spaced armor. So for battle rating 9.3, that doesn't really stop anything, and so we go from a stock HE round to a tier 1 APFSDS thermal imaging and the DM63, which gives it a bit more firepower, considerably more than the predecessor M111. So quite a nice tank at first glance. Then the current end of the line tank is the TTD, battle rating 9.7 with a 105 GT3 cannon. It's still pretty mobile with horsepower to ton ratio of over 20. Again, stock HeatFS round, tier 1 APFSDS, thermal imaging, and as a tier 4 we have the DM63. Currently, if you test the armor versus with the protection analysis and go with the HeatFS, then yeah, the lower glacis is weak, but it's a rather tiny target. The upper hull is better protected, and the turret also pretty good actually. Even here, only directly the gun and above and below you can actually find a weak spot for this HeatFS. When we then but go for obviously what the British really fear, that is the Wirbelwind, and you go to the Panzergranate, then at point blank range, yeah, it's bugged. Otherwise, a Wirbelwind could frontally defeat a MBT. Again, if we just go to the X-ray, we can see that shouldn't be the case. With nearer elements up to 440 or 585 millimeters, this should be considerably better protection versus kinetic energy rounds. But again, dev server things. And this is now the British / South African tech tree additions. Let's go to Japan and the A6 M5 High, and I love my Zeros. Now this is equipped with an extra heavy machine gun. We have 3 13.2mm Type 3 machine guns, 710 rounds overall, and we have also 2 20mm. Further, we have the selection of the usual Zero bombs, and also some rockets for which we have just limited amounts of data. So there is that. But battle rating 4.7, it is actually in a folder, if I'm not mistaken. There it is. So it comes after the A6 M5 Otsu, and Gaijin gives it right from the start a nice juicy 23,000 Silverline repair cost. Oof. The IJN Isuzu is then a rather disappointing ship, and that especially when it fights destroyers. It is a light cruiser at 4.7 with some armor, but not really something really serious. And the main armament has no ammunition for the no armor piercing or semi-armor piercing or base use HE round. Normal HE and flak shells with time fuse, not really that good. However, it tries to make up with 25mm, all of them, 17 single and 11 triple. So that's what 50 barrels. That's a lot. That's a lot. And also some long lances, 4 per side with unusually good firing angles, so they can be fired slightly to the front as well. Not my type of ship, but it will have its fans. The Hirosha tries to nuke the enemy. You see what I did there? And that with a 120mm Schneider Canet 1898 cannon with around about 10 seconds reload and 16 rounds. For 1.7, maybe a Horo budget derp. Quick word about the Hugo. Finally, the armor got arranged in a proper way, with the thick part of the belt at the waterline and the upper belt now also being 200mm. And when it comes to how to take out the Super Dreadnought, it has a little bit of a Yamato style weakness with this inner armor, so it cannot really angle without making this rather flat. So if it tries to angle like this, that's relatively easy to penetrate and then to do serious damage to the magazines. The magazines got changed, the ammunition got changed. Now we have this semi-armor piercing shell with 68 kilograms of TNT, and the AP apparently was also fixed, so now it has 600mm of penetration and detonates when hitting stuff. Let's talk about China, and let's begin with the PTL-02, a nice little Chinese 8.0 light tank with a 100mm PTP-86 cannon that also fires this APDS FS round. And the Heat FS is actually then the upgrade, especially when firing at angled armor. The difference is quite significant, and you have thermal imaging. Then we come to a really sexy aircraft, and that is the F5A, rank 6, battle rating 10.7, and it has the usual very reliable and cool 20mm Gatling gun, and then a nice selection of shell types or ammo overall. M9Ps, bombs, rockets, ball pops, bigger bombs, whatever your heart desires. So that will be definitely something cool. Then let's quickly come to Italy, and we have the Panzer IIIN, which in the German tech tree is a premium. Here it is a tech tree. The Panzer IV-G is a German tech tree tank. Here it is a premium. Then we have the Stuck 3G, which is in both tech trees a tech tree tank. And then we have the Etna, which is also not really a desirable 4.7 light cruiser with a unique secondary firepower of 65mm caliber guns. That also gets a pass from me. No, simply no. Let's come to France. This thing is worth talking about in just a moment. Imagine stock grind being redefined. Because this tank, as a stop shell, gets the following shell. Yes, it's not a joke. 13mm of penetration, and the APFSDS is rank 3. That is hard. That is not even half the penetration that you get on the 37 APCR from the reserve tank, the Cone of Doom. Ouch. JAPZKA2, very similar to the one in the German tech tree. HTFS, APFSDS, thermal imaging. The Mirage 3E is as beautiful as it always has been. And this is the weapon loadout. You have the choice of missiles, bombs, and the guns. And there is even a loadout option with missiles only. You always need missiles as far as I can tell. But without guns, you have a very limited purpose. However, sorry, the unique selling factor is here the flares. And that is, as far as I can tell, they are both for infrared or anti-infrared missile purposes, but also anti-radar missile purposes. Why there are overall 4 different or 5 different flares, I don't know. Somebody know, let me know in the comment section. Then we come to Sweden. And the Swedish have the Fokker D21 2.0 premium with 2 20mm Oerlikon FF cannons with 120 rounds between the two of them, and 2 7.7 FN Brownings with 1000 rounds. And that's it. The IKV 91105, well, there is a similar tank that, if I'm not mistaken, sits at 6.7, although this one looks wider. Sorry, wrong button. And there we have stock APDS, hash, smoke, and as a tier 3, then APFSDS. So my throat is thoroughly burned out, and just in time to say that's it for me today. Again, this is the Dev Server, nothing is final. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Again, I heavily approve of Gaijin announcing this a day early. And that's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like with it, subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.